Welcome to the Tennis Hackery podcast. This is episode number 27. Tennis Hackery is the place where we discuss all things about tennis that are about the fundamentals, the fitness, and the mind game. We are a group of the San Francisco Bay Area based tennis coaches slash aficionados. My name is Tarun, and today we have Soham and Coach Craig with us. How are you doing, guys?
Great, Tarun. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm doing okay, and we'll get to how exactly I'm doing maybe later on in the episode. But I'm looking forward to this fantastic episode 27 discussion about the French Open.
Oh yes, it's this is going to be a fun episode. Before we launch into that, let me start off with the marketing spiel. At Tennis Hackery with a Y is our social media handle. You can find us on Instagram, Meta, Facebook, X, which used to be Twitter. The video version goes to YouTube. At Tennis Hackery is the YouTube channel. Uh, the audio version goes to Spotify. So you can subscribe to us from any of your podcasting apps, whether it's Apple or on Android or any of the podcasting aggregators. Tennishackery.com is our website. Please email us match@tennishackery.com in case you wanted any of your matches analyzed, and we'll be very happy to do that. All right, having said that, guys, so what happened this weekend? I heard there were a couple of some good games on. Yeah.
Just a couple of epic matches for over the course of a new generation of tennis for men's and women's. Yeah, nothing too
Yeah.
spectacular.
Nothing. Yes,
What do you think,
so
Soham?
I think it is at least I was fortunate to be able to watch both the men's and women's finals, and definitely both of them went the distance.
yes.
A viewer and a lover of tennis,
Mm,
that's what we can hope for, right?
yeah,
We
yep.
want maximum amount of tennis, high level of tennis, with people that we genuinely root for because they're good for the game. And
Yes.
guess what? We got championship matches where the number one seed played the number two player.
Yes.
So it's like it worked out perfectly, right?
Yes, this is kind of the perfect tournament. Yeah, the top two seeds
Yeah.
meet in the finals. Yes.
And
S-
both the number two seeds won.
Yep.
Indeed, they
That's
did.
indeed they did, and how. Yes. Let's get started with the women's final. Great that Coco was able to bring it, and great to see an American win a slam. So, Craig, let's start with you. So, what were your impressions on the final? I mean, what were
Yeah,
your
it's
thoughts?
just budding rivalry, amazing elite top level tennis all around, and a little foreboding by Coco. She said in an interview, I don't know what day it was, whether it was Thursday night or Friday after the semifinal, but she said she was questioned on how the final would play out, and she's like, "Hey, no matter what happens, I'm gonna wake up on Sunday, the sun will rise, no matter what, and we'll all be okay." Or she said, "I'll be okay," or something similar to that. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
dang, that's pretty amazing perspective, and I like that. Kind of fits in with some of the thought processes and spirituality, or just progressive thinking if you believe in that stuff. And
right,
um, to say it is one thing,
right,
to then manifest it and believe it and know that if you've been practicing that truly for a long period of time,
right.
and whether it's three months or 6 months or a year and 3 months, whatever that is, then to execute it in a final against the best player in the world on the biggest, that dude, all that is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. So kudos to both players and to Coco for executing it,
Yep,
and obviously adding that layer of strategery
yeah,
that we'll talk about in a little bit was brilliant.
yep.
How about you, Soham? How did you see the women's final playing out?
First of all, it's very hard act to follow going after you, Craig, because you set up so beautifully.
Yeah,
Definitely agree with the great perspective of that, from Coco. I think at the end of the day, it's just a sport, and I think somebody mentioned this, right?
yep,
Rafa in his
yep.
farewell speech, I guess he mentioned that, and yeah, I mean, it's tennis is just a game, just a sport. Sadly there is one loser and only one winner, which is rough, right?
Yep.
And it's on one day the better player wins, on another day maybe the better player loses, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's so beautiful about the game. And with respect to the women's final, I had this one of the things I was sharing with you guys on the chat while the finals was going on was how I saw the very positive body language that Coco had, right?
Yeah.
And she was consistent throughout the match. Her body language was always calm,
Yes.
just focused, disciplined, and I really, really liked that. And that's why I said I just think Coco's going to win the finals because it just appeared to me that she was, very focused. Sabalenka was getting a little bit irritated, annoyed. There was some negative energy,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, these small things make a big difference. Because two players, number one and number two, they're talented. Their fundamentals are solid. They've had plenty of experience, plenty of match wins
Right.
at the biggest stage, right?
Yeah.
But these small things make such a big difference. And
Absolutely.
the biggest difference between the two was the better positive body language that Coco had. And
Yeah.
I think she
Yeah.
deserved it.
Yeah.
I think she played a great match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Soham, Tarun, who has the biggest serve of the two?
Of course, Sabalenka.
Who has the biggest forehand of the two?
Sabalenka again.
Who before this match arguably, we could debate this and
Yeah.
it might be 50, who might be the better clay court player? I mean,
I
maybe,
mean, going by, yeah, maybe,
maybe,
yeah, Sabalenka.
maybe.
Yeah.
But like Soham, you said, these little things,
Yeah.
indomitable, which are really like massive things.
Yeah.
Correct.
Body language, indomitable will, sticking with your strategy,
Yes.
discipline, which Arena has translated and manifested for the last year, 18 months, which we've talked about on this show.
Right.
The last 6 months of our show has been a very heavy mental side.
Yes.
And who's been the best mental player on the women's side
Yep. It's mind games.
this in the last 18 months? It's been Sabalenka.
Yes.
Hard work, footwork, mental. She's checked every box. And then to be checkmated by Coco this
Right.
weekend in this match. Like she
Yes.
has been in the lab with her like it was unbelievable to see it play out
Yeah.
on a match in the biggest scenario with her Coco's forehand going to Sabalenka's backhand to induce a backhand rally, which she knows Coco. It's the third
Yeah.
best shot on the court is Coco's backhand to Sabalenka's backhand, but the
Yes.
most important shot for Coco and for her to get that, just was mind-boggling to Sab, and it worked, and
Yeah.
it melted her down with the wind and the conditions. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
it was just a great session in the lab, mental, physical, strategic. A really well, even though it was kind of an ugly final, which I know Sabalenka is getting a little heat for, but it wasn't when you have 70 unforced errors. Listen,
Yeah.
I give her a little grace on that.
Yeah.
It's not your best effort when you're used to being a really good player.
Yeah.
But man, kudos to Coco for just sticking with it and being a great disciplined effort.
Yes. Yeah, I think Soham and Craig, both of you alluded to very good points. So, Soham, you were talking about body language, staying calm, and trusting your process. I think that just led to, I guess, clearer thinking, which means that the strategy that probably the team had cooked up was she was able to execute the strategy with a clear head, and just because she was calm, composed, and did not fall into the trap of negative energy during the game.
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
end of the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
these make, like Craig said,
Yeah.
these you might think they're small, but they make such a big difference in
Right.
big
Right.
matches.
Yeah.
Like it's that small 5 to 10% difference
Yep.
is the difference between a win and a loss.
Yes. True.
And
Yeah.
I'm very happy for Coco. I think she's been working hard.
Yep.
And I think now this is the second time this year that Sabalenka has lost a final.
Yeah.
Um, Madison very well deserved it last time. And I'm a fan of Madison Keys.
Yeah.
And I think she actually had a very good tournament. I think didn't Coco beat her in 3 sets?
I think in the quarters,
Yeah.
yeah, she
Something like
lost in the quarters. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So both these American girls are doing really well this year,
Yep.
and I expect them to show up in the next two slams and go to quarters and beyond. So this is a good period of time for women's tennis, for American women. Now
For
that's
sure.
two American women who have won back-to-back majors. That's great, carrying on the legacy that Serena and Venus, left behind. Uh, their legacy obviously lives on.
Yep.
It's very good year. I'm hopeful for next couple of years being very good for Americans women's tennis at least, because the men's there's a lot of men's players who are doing well in the top 20 in the rankings, but we are still waiting for that
Yeah.
American
Yeah.
champion at the slam level.
Yeah.
So great tournament for the Americans. Great tournament for Coco, obviously. And let's see. Let's see if there's going to be another upset in the final in terms of the underdog beating the favorite. The
Yeah.
Wimbledon coming up
Right.
soon.
Right. Before we move on to the next topic, a quick question for Craig. So, Craig, in this women's final, of course, there were two players, but there was a third common enemy to both of them, which was the wind. So, can you speak to that a bit? Like, how does the wind affect players, and typically, what should be the mindset when playing in windy conditions?
Yeah, I think I think Coco had an advantage there because I think her initial strategy was to when she got that forehand, she wanted to go to Sabalenka's backhand. So that's obviously going to be a high, soft, spinny shot over the highest part of the net and the shortest part of the court, which you wouldn't necessarily go for
Right.
unless you're trying to induce a cross-court rally. Now it just happened that it was a windy day.
Yeah.
So I think the strategy may have been there to hit that shot anyway,
Yeah.
but the fact that it was so windy and so off-putting to a strike zone
Yep.
that I think that messed with Sabalenka so much. And the fact that she's, 5'11" or whatever she is, I think that may have played
Yep.
a big factor. I think there was a lot of little tiny intangibles that played a big factor in that flummoxed her.
Yep.
She was, and we hadn't seen that out of Arena in quite a while. And even in the Maddie Keys match, if I go back, it's not that I have it on the tip of my tongue, but that was a well-struck ball match from both players. And
Yeah.
Maddie was on a heater, and nobody was stopping her. And Arena's been on those heaters too, and
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fine. And nobody is stopping Arena too. Pure ball striking, and shot making was not going to be the
Yeah.
theme of the day on a day like that. And I think Coco benefited a bit from the wind, not to even things out per se, but I think it just compound positive her strategy of just hitting a high spinny deep ball to
Right.
Sabalenka's backhand, and which is kind of what we teach our juniors and what we want our club players to do. It's in the wind, it's you roll it, you play it safe, you play it deep, and you make kind of somebody screwed up, or go for more than they should. And who is the best shot maker, power player on the tour? It's probably, it's Sabalenka and Andreeva. And if Sabalenka's got that vibe going in the final that she's going to want to drive every ball,
Yep.
and the day doesn't call for driving every ball,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. That plays into Coco's strategy. So
Right.
I think a good, solid, beneficial day for Coco, and not a great day, which leads into what Sabalenka was talking about after the match. She didn't make great mental adjustments. She didn't make great physical adjustments, hindered her, which led to her terrible tennis, which I think is true. Unfortunate that she said those things, but it was reality.
Yeah.
She didn't make any adjustments, and Coco was, in fact, which Sabalenka admitted, the better player that day, and would have been 10 times out of 10 times on a
Yeah.
day like that.
Yes.
If it was benign conditions, it might have been different, but
Right.
but it wasn't.
Yeah. Well said, Craig. All right, folks, moving on to the men's final. Like, it was quite a game. I mean, quite incredible. I've not seen a match like this in years. So what are your first impressions, Soham? We'll start with you.
You know, first of all, this is a match for the ages.
Yeah.
Over 5 hours. the best two players in the world, undoubtedly, who have won past, I don't know, 6, 7 majors. So at least we can say tennis is in good hands with these two guys for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah.
The quality of tennis is crazy. I mean, the ball striking from Sinner, so consistent, so disciplined, so balanced,
Yeah.
always in the right position, almost always. And then there is this special player in Alcaraz, right? Who has all the tricks, great athlete, can play every shot, super talented, has probably more highs and lows against like a Sinner who's so consistent, right?
Yeah.
Like, um, what a match. I mean, even if you look at the first four sets,
Yeah.
like 6-4, 7-6, 4-6, 6-7, right? It's
Yeah.
like so even. There's hardly anything between them. And then it goes to a fifth. And it goes to a super tie almost, right? 10-point tie.
It does go to a tiebreaker. Yeah.
This is where, what I said earlier comes into play, where someone unfortunately has to lose. There can only be one winner. So
Yeah.
it hurts. I'm sure it hurts to the
Yeah.
person who doesn't win. And in this case, Sinner was so close. In my prediction, I'm a Carlos Alcaraz fan, right? But based on how Sinner had been playing this tournament without dropping his head, getting into the final, he was immense. He was intense, immense against Novak. That was a great semifinal.
Pumping win, yeah. Yeah.
Great match. Novak gave
Yeah.
everything. He's 38 years old. He was playing like he was 25 years old. So kudos to Novak. Not his fan, but definitely kudos because very few people can do what he can do at 38.
Yeah.
He gave Sinner everything he got. And then Sinner comes back and he looks great the first two sets, right? Being decisive, consistent, big shots, right? And then he has 3 match points in the sorry, so he loses the third set. Um, which, in these kind of matches where two players are so even, it's not easy to win in straight sets. So he goes into the fourth, it's 3 match points. Alcaraz saves it. Sinner to serve it out. He doesn't do it. It goes into a fifth. At that point, it's more of a mental battle between the two. Who can be disciplined and focused mentally when it really matters? And honestly, I feel so bad for Sinner. Like I said, based on the way things were happening in the tournament, I predicted Sinner to win in four. But I'm so happy for Alcaraz. He pulled off one of the best matches finals there may be, one of the top five maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not very many people can say when their tennis career is done that I was 3 match point championship points, not just match championship points. I saved them all. I came back. I won in 5 sets. Incredible story.
Very rare. Very rare. Yeah.
Legendary. Carlos Alcaraz has 5 majors at, I don't know, 23 years old or something. And it's almost exactly the same as Rafa having 5 majors when he was 23.
Yeah.
So we can see
The parallels. Yeah.
there is a weird, crazy correlation.
Yep.
Fascinating. I have a lot to say, but to me, both deserve finalists. Both deserve to be the top two players in the world. I want to see more and more of them compete in Grand Slam finals. Uh, going forward, and a well-deserved win for Carlos because he really did something special.
Yep. Yep. Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the best word, amazing observations by Soham, and the word that I'll take away from that is fascinating
Yeah.
because not only did Carlos do all the things that you said, Soham, and that we kind of know he's capable of, but then he did something he's never done before, which is come not only from 3 match points down, but from 2 sets down,
Yeah.
which he's never done
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, in the Grand Slam final against the best player in the world. All these things that are just these onion layers that are just, you can peel back all the layers of this onion, and it's just more amazing the more you peel it. It's such a beautiful, uh, it's like these warm, it's like a big warm fuzzy blanket of
Yep.
Well said, Craig.
Yeah.
tennis this weekend. It's just Sinner say at the end of the match that in his presser that it was just a pleasure to be a part of this match. Obviously, he would have liked to come out on it, but on top. But he said it was just a pleasure. He knew the historic value of this match, and that he came out on the losing end of it and was still able to have this relative feeling of being a part of it, of being a part of history
Yep.
at the time. Man, that just made me feel that tennis is in the right spot. When the big three was maybe phasing out, like right around 2020, where they thought it was anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, tennis is, fading, membership's declining, they're turning tennis courts into pickleball courts. Listen, tennis is in such a beautiful spot right now.
Yep.
It has a rivalry, and not only a rivalry, it has an epic rivalry. It has layers. It has amazing players in Rude and Cerundolo and Musetti and Shelton and Tommy. It has Americans. It has international players who are beautiful to watch. You saw the goodbye ceremonies
No.
for Gasquet and Monfils. It was an epic tournament, and this is what is so beautiful about tennis. It's not running out. It's not going away. These guys are here to bring the top level, elite level. If somebody wants to join him, they're going to have to earn it and break through like a Andy Murray or Stan Wawrinka. They're going to have to try to fight their way through these two
Yep.
guys.
Yep.
Who knows if anybody's going to be able to step up and do that? I'm sure it will happen. But man, what an amazing, amazing match. And
Yeah.
you know, that's the macro.
Yep.
Soham, are you ready to talk about some micro?
Yeah.
And talk about, because we debated on the chat
Mhm.
about the Sinner three match points,
Yeah.
and then also the Alcaraz serving for the set at 5-4. And I'm going to say this, and I'll set the table for you, Soham, and then I'll let you relate this to some of the things you went through this weekend, because you play at a competitive high level, and you have some comparisons, analogous events that happened to you this weekend. But if you look at the four set with Sinner with the three match points, we can parcel those three match points into whatever you want. It's like, okay, the first match point, well handled or not, you still have two more. Second match point, he goes for a backhand aggressive up the line two-hander that he's been hitting most of the match in the first two
Yeah.
sets, and he in fact hit in the whole fifth set. It was nails.
Yep.
And I was just commenting it, man, if he had one of those in the fifth set that he can transfer to that fourth set, it was money.
Yeah.
And then that third match point, Carlos played a great point, didn't go his way, and then Carlos drop shot became a heater. It was unbelievable. Nobody is, I don't care if you're Sinner or 1980s McEnroe or 1990s Pete Sampras, nobody's dealing with Alcaraz when he's got that drop shot working. It was just
Yep.
unreal what he had going on at the end of that third set and into that fourth set. And then when you look at the fifth set, when Alcaraz tried to serve out the match, Sinner, I it was so clutch.
Yeah.
Some of the shots
The
that he came
returning.
up with, he had two backhands. I think it was both backhands, but he had two shots on the line that at 5-4. It was reminding me of Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, Federer. It was unbelievable. So we can debate, and the pundits can debate on who won, who lost, who choked. But I'm going to go with the Sinner presser, that it was a pleasure to be a part of that match. And I think it was just amazing. And I think he'll regret it for sure. And that'll be something he talks about over a cocktail and a brown liquor beverage, with his buddies that he let one get away. But that goes in history with all the greats. McEnroe, Lendl in '84, which they talked about today, Martina and Chrissy in also the
Yeah.
French Open, where, they have these leads that go away. It just happens.
Yeah.
And that's just pressure. And so, Ham, you play more out of all of us. So I'd like to hear your commentary on what I just talked about regarding these pros, but then how does that translate to the club player as well? The tournament player, the high level player who is still trying to do what they're trying to do out there on the court. Are there any analogous things that you can share with us, in these tight situations?
Yeah, I mean, great topic, honestly, Craig. Well summarized too, and putting it in context. First of all, I just say that I completely agree with Sinner about just appreciating being in certain situations, because when your career is over, you rather have played and lost. Well, no, but of course you rather win, but it's good to have had the opportunity to be in such a final, such a memorable final than not, from a very purely perspective.
Right.
Now, of course, at competitive level, there is pressure, right? Every point is pressure. Some people handle pressure really well, some people don't. And sometimes you get better at handling pressure with experience.
Yep.
And you think about today's whatever happened in today's match, and then I look back, when it first happened, I was messaging on the chat, oh my God, Sinner choked. And then Tarun doesn't like the word choked. And then we were just having a candid laugh about it. But honestly, like, I don't really know whether it's choke or whether somebody else's willingness to take a risk that pays off, because when you take risks, you get rewarded
Yep.
sometimes,
Yep.
right? Like, you can't blame. I mean, the situation could be seen as a choke because you might be expected. So, what I was telling Tarun and what I was telling you guys is, when Sinner was in a position with 3 championship points, you're expected to win one of the next 3 points.
At least one of those, yes, for
Mathematically,
sure.
yes.
Yes,
Mathematically,
for sure.
probabilistically, yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
with the way things were going in the last 5 minutes, and now you're setting up in a when you're set up in a situation where it's a 40 championship point, you think that he will convert one of those, right? And then if he didn't, then he has a service game to convert and win 4 points. It's not like he has a bad serve, right? So there's a fine line between choking or things not going your way, or maybe it's like the other person is just destined to win if they take that risk. And Alcaraz, I mean, you have to give it to the guy. Maybe Alcaraz could have been tentative on any one of those 3 points,
Yep.
right? Like, in so it's crazy. It's just unbelievable. Maybe the script was written for Alcaraz to win. Maybe destiny. Maybe he worked really hard, and all the good karma kind of culminated on the day at that moment to give him that win, because he did.
So, yeah, so quick question then,
Yeah,
because when we mention Alcaraz by name, he's also the second best player according to ranking in the world, right?
yeah.
So when you're playing two versus one, would you say that, and if Tarun may, we have permission to use the word choke again?
Yeah, please,
Because I
please.
know we've had conversations where we don't like that.
I'll
And
bleep it out. I'll bleep it out.
and,
Yeah.
and I'm more aligned with you on that, where I don't really like it a lot. But so Soham, back to that point though, would you agree that if I made a statement that if you're playing Alcaraz in the final of the French Open and you have 3 match points and don't convert, it would be different than playing Sonego, who's 28 in the world, and you don't close that out. Is there any difference to you? And is there any difference in your experiences if you're playing a player, at your level versus somebody you think you should beat and you have a similar experience?
I think that's a great question, because I would like to answer that question by relating to some of my experiences. So, for example, I had three matches this weekend, right? Played two doubles yesterday back to back, and then I had one singles match, which is my forte. So in both the doubles matches, um, when you're up against in the first match, we were up against people who are superior to us, ranking, seeding, whatever you might want to say, right? So the tendency is, if it's close, you tend to play freely because you have less to lose, maybe against people who you're expected to lose against. That's one way of looking at it. But somehow, if you're leading against them, then the nerves kind of kick in because you're like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be winning. I'm supposed to be losing. And then you played freely all the way through, and then suddenly you're in a position, we were in a position in a tie break where we are up two breaks, 3-0, and I'm serving. And you're like nervous. Wow, I'm not supposed to be in this situation, but I am, right? And then suddenly the nerves kick in, and then I throw in two double faults. That is could be lack of experience or lack of unable to handle the pressure because I'm not supposed to be in that situation. That's one way of looking at it against people who you're not expected to be. Then a similar thing happened. Um, by the way, these are all experience that I can learn from. So, and I will. Where I played against in doubles again right after that match, played against people that we were supposed to be, right? And then you're up because you should be up against people you're supposed to beat based on ranking. And then suddenly you end up losing the set when you're like serving for the set and then things don't go your way because maybe your opponents started loosening up where they started hitting shots that they were not hitting before. And then you suddenly like, what the hell's going on? We were up, and now the opponent started playing freely, and then there's pressure immediately. Cause damn, I was supposed to win the set. I'm the better player. We were the better players. So that's another angle where your opponents start loosening up, taking risks, and it works out for them. Then I played a singles match where I was playing a person who was not really at level, more experienced player than he was. Great guy though. And I'm winning pretty easily, and it's like I was up 6-love and 5-1 or something, and then I'm serving it out. And they're like, and at that point you're like, no, I want to get this over quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm expected to win big, and I just
You
want
were winning big,
to
yeah.
up quickly.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's a different type of pressure where you're expected to win by a big margin, and then suddenly a couple of points don't go your way, and then you start overthinking and be like, damn, I should have won this match already. So there are different types of pressure based on situations.
Right.
And to your point, Tarun, like, I don't know whether it's really choking, actually, now that I think about it and I talk about it.
Yeah.
I think we'll use the term loosely, or at least I do sometimes. But it's like over time, you have to learn how to deal with certain situations at the moment. Maybe deep breathing or something. Because, yes, some of it is about skill, but ultimately, I just feel that some people are not wired to handle certain situations because they may not have been in that situation before. And this happens with juniors all the time.
Yeah.
Like I see this with juniors all the time. Like they have not had the experience of being in certain situations, which is why I think when you train kids, juniors, you need to teach them how to handle different pressure points,
Yep. For sure.
which I did not go through as a junior. I didn't play juniors, but so it's a learning experience for me, but I'm playing at a pretty good level. Even these small things make a huge difference.
Yep.
So I don't know, Craig. I mean, I just give you certain situations from my personal
Yeah.
experience. All I have to say
No.
is sometimes. it's just learning how to deal with certain situations better. And there are
Yeah.
methodologies that
Yeah.
people can use. Alex Purda, who's unfortunately not with us, she's so good at, deep breathing techniques, or just calming yourself down, or just taking like a 30-second additional break, wiping your sweat off your face with a towel. There are lots of techniques to be used, and maybe for me, I could do sometimes a better job of that. But
Yeah, for sure. Pennies in a jar, right? Like, you just keep putting them in and bank that account. And we talked about the last time we were all together, we talked about the 5-5-5 rule that, is probably around for a very long time, but Federer made very popular, where you can take 5 seconds after a point and be frustrated or super happy. And then you take the next 5 seconds and get your breath back, and you take the physical and spiritual being of breathing and mental and so forth. And then you take that next 5 seconds, that last 5 seconds, and look forward to the next point.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what we talk about, right? With the fundamentals, the fitness and the mind. Tarun, you play as well.
Yes. Mhm.
How do you kind of marry that philosophy? And when you play, we all we're all trying to achieve higher levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your experience in some of these areas?
Well, I don't play that much as I would like to, but from what I have played, I mean, you guys said it right. To me, I think tennis is all about putting in the reps on the practice courts. Like you put yourself in those situations, the more and more you do, live ball drills, these routines that you talked about, Craig, just now, and which I think Jeff Greenwald also alluded to a lot and very well in a previous episode. Uh, these routines also have to be practiced in the practice courts. I've heard, like, I've been to a couple of USTA events where they talked about hydration. That needs to be practiced in the practice courts. It's not just hydration you practice in a 2 hour match. You have to put in that discipline in the practice court. Because when you're drilling, you need to be disciplined with your pre-hydration, hydration. So I think it's a summation of all these things. And when players on both sides, like it takes like it's an adversarial sport. So when both players have put in their work, as you can imagine what Sinner and Alcaraz did, at that point, I think, as you saw, it contributes to a very high level of play. And then the game is decided by thin margins. To me, that's what it comes down to. I think it comes, so things like nervousness, choking in quotes, to me, it's all about practice. Soham, you yourself mentioned that you get better at the mental game as you practice it. So to me, it's just a question of putting in those reps on the practice court, and just and then certain things, your shots, your, like, for instance, I think you mentioned that you double faulted a few times.
I
Now,
did.
yeah. So my question to you would be, like, have you consciously practiced your serves, hitting your targets, your depth targets, and counting your scores and things like that? I mean, which I'm sure the students do that. So that's the thing, right? I mean, high performance students who are being coached in all these academies, they are doing all these things. So I'm not sure if you drill that way, but I'm sure that may have helped you if you had those reps in, specifically with respect to the serve and hitting those targets. So I mean, I
Yeah,
feel
we
that,
also
yeah,
we also talk about we've talked about in the past on other
yeah,
episodes about making practice harder,
yeah,
trying to simulate making
right,
practice harder than matches.
right,
Now, that might be easier for coaches in professional
yeah, yeah,
settings,
yeah,
but Tarun and Soham and I and even Alex will start playing more.
yeah,
I mean, that's Soham, you have some real ambitious goals, and we need to continue to make practice, like Tarun said, perfect and harder.
yeah,
Then so when we go play the match, it's like,
yeah,
oh, this is what I practiced.
yeah,
And these are the things that and we've gone through it before on Fridays, Soham, where we put in our time in the lab. And I think drawing on those things, whether you're Alcaraz or Craig or Tarun or Soham or Alex or whoever it is, I think those are the key elements in trying to find our own tennis journey,
yeah,
and making sure that's like a real part of our clutch gene.
yeah.
And I'm going to use clutch gene instead of choking in the future. I'm going to totally spin that. So if we want to go from choke to clutch, we need to think about what happened Friday at noon. So if we're in an open match, Soham, on Sunday at 12. I want to think back of what I did on Friday at 9 a.m. in practice that will help me for that scenario. Because when we go to Indian Wells and we go watch tournaments at Moraga at whatever it's called now, but the 25K Open, that's what these players do,
Yeah.
right? They're practicing and they have the blessing to do what we don't, we have jobs and we work, and
Yeah.
tennis is certainly something we'd like to do more, but we don't get to do it as much as we'd like. And
Yeah.
but we kind of still have that passion and we
Yeah.
still have
Yeah.
that competitive flair, and we want to give it everything we've got. And that's the beauty of
Yeah.
tennis and sometimes the frustrating part,
Yeah,
as
exactly. Yeah.
Som has pointed out, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, Craig, I didn't directly answer your question. So specifically with respect to me, since my fundamentals are not that solid, I just try to kind of like whenever I get the chance to play these matches, these league matches at a low 4.5 level. I mean, I'm like a low 4.5 level player. I just try to, I know I'm not going to be hitting huge forehands or huge backhands. So I just try to hit safe targets and just, rush people, use my positioning and bits and pieces of what I have learned. And I know that, and I do get nervous as the games are, the fatigue sets in, you're not the fittest. So the fatigue sets in as you go deep into the match, you make some mental errors. These things happen. And I've tried to learn to kind of like in the sense deal with it. Like I don't dwell on those errors or mistakes too much because I know that, yeah, it is what it is. So I just need to move on. So I try to forget what happened and try to reset and re-execute and, just try to play high percentage tennis.
Yeah.
No.
I
So
just have a quick comment. This one is Craig. I have something for you. Is especially in doubles tennis,
yeah,
when you have a partner that you play with,
right.
whether it is men's doubles, mixed, whatever it is, the value of, and I've mentioned this before, of having a partner who complements you in terms of your personality, behavior, how you're on court, are so important and are crucial to success. You don't have to be the best individual players to win, but the camaraderie, the chemistry that you have with your partner is so important. So if somebody is emotional on court, I am pretty emotional in the sense that I get pumped up, but also, I express myself. And I've noticed that when I play with somebody who is very chill in the sense that they're very chill in terms of their emotions, at least, like, of course,
Like
everybody
me,
win.
like me.
But no, no, not no. I'm not taking
Yeah,
specific names, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like people who are maybe not as expressive or who at least understand you as a person.
Right,
But off court, it makes the process a lot easier and simpler. Uh, so if I'm let's say I make a double fault, right? We are like an example from this weekend. We're up 3-0 in a tie break. I made a double fault. It's now 3-1, right? If there is a person who comes up to me and says, you know what, don't worry about it. It's just one double fault. Who cares? We're still winning. Let's move on to the next. You have the best serve. You will hit an ace the next game, next point for sure.
yeah,
Then just lifts you up, knows how to lift you up
yeah,
and motivate you the right way.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
very important to play. It's very important to stick together when you have somebody like that who can do that. And similarly, you would do the same for them. So if they are not
Absolutely.
impressive, when you start winning, you need to go, and like what I do is with one of my favorite partners is I go pump him up, be like, let's go, come on, like we are. So I'm very like vocal, right?
Yeah,
And then suddenly I see he also starts doing a little bit of that. So it's a two-way thing, right?
right, right.
So doubles is
Mm,
fascinating that way because it's hard because sometimes you may not have the right marriage between two players,
yeah,
but it's very important to have the complementary skill set where
yeah,
somebody can understand you emotionally as
right,
well, like
right.
your ability.
Yeah, and help you play the best tennis. Yeah, that's for
Play
sure.
help, and not
Yeah,
everybody has that talent.
yeah,
And finding that
No,
right
agree.
for you is is really important, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Craig, I
Um,
mean, you tell me, you have played doubles at a high level for so long.
I can't agree with you more. It's, so many times I hear from club players all the time. They come to me. It's like, hey, I'm stuck with a new partner every time, or I'm a nice person and I'm pretty flexible. So the captain always puts me with somebody new because it's easy for them, and they keep, this certain pair together all the time. And I'm always odd person out. And it's like, okay, I get that. And all you can do in that situation, which is quite different than what you just talked about, but you just play the double strategy that you think is best or that you're taught, hopefully by your coach, or that your philosophy is, and you just kind of stick with that the best you can, regardless of who you're playing with. The ideal scenario is what you talked about. If you're playing with somebody who's complementary, if you're playing somebody who understands doubles, then the more you can communicate, the more you can work on shot selection and court
right.
position. I just had a practice today, and I'm playing with it's a 55 plus team, 9.0, and I'm playing with a 4.0 guy. And it's like, hey, when you get the ball, I just want you to get over the net and get it in,
Yeah.
and let the other team screw it up, and then let me, if I can clean it up, I will, but just get the ball over the net. And I think too many times as club players, we want to do something special to
Yeah.
support our doubles partner, and we're going to talk about this in our next episode with we're going to have Gigi Fernandez on Friday, and we're going to talk more in depth about court position and shot selection and double strategy for club players. And I think it's important for us to realize sometimes you just need to get it back over. A winner that you hit that's a spectacular running forehand up the line is worth exactly 1 point.
Yep.
Yeah.
No three
A
pointers in
ball you
tennis.
put back in over the net and they dump into the net or dump long or wide is worth 1 point. So, and it's much easier to get the unforced error or the forced error than it is for us at our level, whether you're a 5-0, 5-5, 4-0, 4-5, 3-0. It's much easier to garner that unforced or forced error than it is to hit this amazing winner. But guys, to wrap up and, to come full circle, what we saw today and yesterday from Coco and Sabalenka is so inspiring. That's the beauty of tennis. We want to go out and hit
Yeah. Yep.
these amazing shots and have this great plan and have this strategy and this execution, and that's what is lovely about tennis. And I played other sports growing up. I wouldn't have I wouldn't trade tennis for anything.
Yep.
It's the most satisfying, the most beautiful, the most ugly, the most heartbreaking, the most loving. It's all the things. And I know if I would, and maybe any of us would trade it for anything ever.
I wouldn't, and I can't wait to look forward to the grass court season coming up because, like, love the grass as much as I love clay, and really want to see if any of the Americans can win a men's championship.
Yep. Yeah.
Not at Wimbledon. No.
Yeah. All right, folks. With that, I think we can come to an end of this episode. I mean, it was quite a mind-boggling discussion. I feel like I think there was tidbits in it. I mean, I think what I loved about this episode is we tried to uh, garner information that relating it to our own experiences, and hopefully it helps those who are the amateurs and the hackers who are watching out there. So yep, with that we come to the end of this Roland Garros post-mortem special, or rather finals post-mortem special, episode 27. At Dennis Hackery is our social media handle. You can find it on in Instagram, Facebook. The video version goes to YouTube. The audio version is goes to Spotify, and you can find us at Dennis Hackery on your favorite podcasting apps, whether it's Apple Podcasts or anything on Android. You should be able to find us there. Please, please, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for further episodes. The next episode, as Craig mentioned, we have a very special guest, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much for joining. Bye.
Thank you.